Hi guys, this is gsmm.com and I'm here with the handset called the Xiaomi Mi A1 for a full review. You may know Xiaomi as the company behind MIUI, and they apply that layer on all their phones except this one. The Xiaomi Mi A1 stands out because it runs a pretty clean Android. It has a dual camera, it's made of metal, and it's quite sexy and stylish, priced at only, and I said only, $209.99 on TomTop.com. It's got Android 1, comes in gold, rose gold or black, and it can be considered a rival for the Asus Zenfone 3, Huawei P10 Lite, or the Huawei Honor 8. So, metal midranger. It has a 5.5-inch diagonal, and the back has a very iPhone-like vibe and iPhone-like texture. We got those antennas here, like on the iPhone 7 and the Meizu Pro 6. And the phone is reasonably slim at 7.3 millimeters and reasonably light at 165 grams. By the way, if you want to compare it to the Zenfone 4, that one is 7.7 millimeters in thickness and weighs 165 grams, so the same weight as the Zenfone 4. It's a bit too wide and too long to be used properly with a single hand. I can manage it, but I have to reach out my big thumb more than on other phones out there, which are narrower nowadays. It's got comfy buttons here, good grip, it's well built, premium, it's got curved glass at the front, metal body, so everything checks out. So when it comes to the screen, we're dealing with a 5.5-inch IPS LCD Full HD panel, LTPS, and a 1000:1 contrast ratio, 2.5D, gently curved, and a pretty okay narrow bezels, not the narrowest in the world, but just okay. So if we want to view videos, you can use this one, this option here, or we can opt for other features, or MX player or another player like that. For starters, I'm going to use Google Photos. So that's what the video looks like on this 5.5-inch screen. I'm detecting some black borders around the image, which are not cool. The brightness is quite high. We have a crisp image, nice clarity. The colors are well calibrated. I cannot say they're oversaturated or undersaturated. Not bad contrast, so overall quite okay in my book. Now, if you want to talk about the measurements, we put the screen under the microscope, and guess what? RGB stripes pixels as usual for an IPS LCD. We measured the brightness and got as high as 474 lux units, which is quite solid. It beats the Samsung Galaxy A5 2017 and the Motorola Moto Z Play, scores below the Motorola Moto Z and the Huawei P9. Now we have to deal with the settings for the very same screen, so we go here and let's check them out. So display, we got brightness level, adaptive brightness, wallpaper, sleep, screensaver, ambient display, font size, display size, and that's about it. A pretty solid and quality screen. Now it's time to talk about the other hardware, and I'm going to start off with the processor, which is a very familiar Qualcomm Snapdragon 625. We've seen it on the Huawei Nova, Zenfone 3 and the Motorola Moto Z Play. Aside from that CPU, we also get 4 GB of RAM here and the Adreno 506 GPU, 64 GB of storage and a micro SD card slot. Luckily, the phone is very snappy, possibly a tribute to its stock interface, clean UI and so forth, and pretty good specs in the end, so no lag whatsoever. No matter what you do and no matter how many apps are open, you will not encounter lag. Now when it comes to the gaming, we got Riptide GP Renegade, our usual benchmark game, and we're ready to put it to the test. So here we go. Restore, I've played the game 1,000 times. It's time to play it again. It's a benchmark title because it has high-end graphics, and it also has tweaks for the graphics, so you can change the graphical level to a higher, well, level. Xiaomi Mi A1. It was surprising when Xiaomi came out with a stock Android phone, but here we are, and it's got pretty solid performance in gaming too. Nice frame rate, nice lighting, there's no stutter, there's no freeze, there's no lag, and you'll see this good trend continuing in the benchmarks department. It didn't miss a beat when I stopped the game and entered the photos area, and here we go. So screenshots, we're talking about benchmarks. I'm going to start off with quadrant. Here we go. In quadrant, we scored above the Samsung Galaxy A7 2016 and HTC One M8, but below the OnePlus 2 and Huawei P9. Now after quadrant comes AN226, and in AN226 we have this score here. It means we beat the HTC One A9 and the Asus Zenfone 3, scored below the LG V10 and the LG Nexus 5X. Now if you want to talk about the benchmarks related to the GPU, we got Slingshot Extreme, not a bad score, 465, beats the Sony Xperia XA and scores below the Motorola Moto Z Play. Still, it cannot fight the Sony Xperia XA1 or the Bluebo S1. I would say they're okay benchmarks. This phone can fight the Asus Zenfone 3 in some tests, and it can easily fight and maybe defeat the Huawei P9 Lite and the P10 Lite. Now, if you want to talk about temperature, here we are. We achieved 30.3 degrees Celsius when running GFX Bench, which is not bad. And when running the game you saw before, Riptide, 35 degrees Celsius, so the phone is quite cool, there is no overheating, no problem whatsoever. If you want to talk about the battery, lithium ion, 3080 mAh, 5V 2A charging, and let's skip straight to the HD video playback test because we have it here, should be here somewhere. Finally, so continuous HD playback is 9 hours and 31 minutes, which is quite solid. It beats the Sony Xperia L1 and the LG V10, also HTC 10, which was a flagship last year. Scores below the Motorola Moto G5 and the Sony Xperia XA1. It's almost good enough to watch a TV show, but a TV show that has maybe 10 episodes, not 12 or 13 like The Punisher. If you want to talk about continuous usage, things are a bit better, with 9 hours 2 minutes, which is great. Superior to the Asus Zenfone 3, Huawei P9 Plus, but inferior to the Huawei Nova and Xperia X Compact. Now charging was quite good at 2 hours and 3 minutes, so no trace of long charging here, luckily. It's superior to the Huawei Mate 9 and the LG AKA, and if you want to take steps, 15 minutes of charging is 13% charge, 30 minutes 27%, 1 hour 63%. So if you want to do extra tweaks to the battery, you got stock options basically. Battery saver, which can be turned on or off, and battery optimization. So that's about it. I'm happy especially with the continuous usage, and now it's time to talk about the acoustics. So we have a 5-hole speaker here, the singular one. You cannot cover it in landscape mode. As you can see, I'm not covering it when you hold the phone like this. We do not have headphones bundled with the phone, and inside there's a 10-watt smart amplifier with Dirac HD sound algorithm, and the audio amp supports high impedance headphones in case you have those. Let's leave the lingo aside, go to play music and see what equalizer options we have. Don't be scared by the lag you see here. Even the best phones sometimes will lag in Google Play Music. Don't ask me why, ask Google, make them update the app. The equalizer looks different from what I usually see. It's got Snapdragon Audio Plus. We got the options here, we got these 5 custom channels and genre settings, custom area again, electronic music, rock, pop and so forth. Bass boost on or off, surround sound, reverb and a few other options. I'm going to keep it off for now. Let's listen to some tunes, so here we go. Okay, conclusions. I would say the volume is quite high, the back tends to vibrate a little bit, the bass is pretty decent and pretty deep, there's no distortion, and I'm loving the high notes and the voices. And once again, you will not cover this speaker easily. Now, if you want to talk about decibels, we actually have some figures and numbers for you. So we did a decibel meter test and achieved 86 decibels with our typical audio sample, which means we're beating the Xiaomi Mi 6 flagship and the Huawei Nova Plus, but got beaten by the Huawei P9 Plus and the Sony Xperia XA. Okay, so that was the first test. Let's go to the second one. So in the second one we achieved 94 decibels, which was achieved playing Riptide GP Renegade. It's superior even to the Galaxy S8 and the Huawei Mate 9 Pro, but scores below the Huawei P9 Lite 2017. I would say okay volume, okay sound, but too bad we don't have any headphones. If we do, well, we can connect them because we have an audio jack, unlike some other phones out there. Now it's time to address the camera. So yes, we have a dual camera at the back with a dual tone flash. These are both 12 megapixel sensors, so we got wide angle and telephoto lens here. So the wide angle camera has f2.2 aperture, 26mm focal length, 5-piece lens, and the telephoto one has 1 micron pixels, f2.6 aperture, and a 5-piece lens. Face detection, autofocus, and 4K video are here. Selfies are taken with a 5-megapixel camera with f2.0 aperture. And now if the whole UI is stock and clean, somehow Xiaomi opted for a custom camera interface. When I say custom, I mean typical from MIUI. So we have this button here which takes the 2x optical zoom fast. We got the options like audio, beautify, square, tilt shift, timer, straighten, panorama, and manual, plus group selfies. You know them all from the Xiaomi Redmi phones, from the Xiaomi Mi 5X, from the Xiaomi Mi 6. They keep basically the same options. Plus we have a portrait option here to create your bokeh effects. Now, enough with the options, time to talk about the gallery. And we've taken quite a few shots in 2 locations. Actually, one was sunnier and one, well, not so much. One was quite rainy. Okay, so let's start with this sunnier area. First we have an indoor shot with excellent texture. Then we go outside. It may be sunset, but we caught some excellent textures and colors. Clarity is excellent. I would put the clarity on par with the Xiaomi Mi 6, and I'm totally loving the HDR here. It does what an HDR should do, totally lights up the scenery, shows all the details in perfect fashion. So when it's sun outside, the camera loves it, takes some nifty HDRs and pretty good lighting, texture and colors. That's when it's all okay. When it's the typical fall, which I actually caught, we caught a lot of rain. You'll see that in a minute. So you also played with the perspective using the bokeh portrait feature refocus thingy. You can see it here. Focus on the mug, focus on the bear, alternate between them, and that's what bokeh is all about. Now it's time to go deeper and see the rainy day gallery. So these are the other shots, maybe not as convincing. I would say that the selfies were a bit underwhelming. Once again, it was raining outside, it was pouring rain, and the fact that the selfies are blurry is a bit underwhelming. It's still a 5-megapixel camera, so expectations weren't exactly huge. Pretty well calibrated colors, nice focus and exposure. Not bad details in the landscape shots. So let's find one. Let's say this one or this one. Zoom in, and details aren't exactly bad, which is nice to see. The things I love the most here, I love the hues of blue that the camera catches, and also it takes some pretty solid close-ups. And a thing I found interesting is that after I took some more selfies, I found that my hood confused the selfie camera. So when I took the hood off, selfies were slightly better. So maybe take your hood off or your cap off if you want more capable selfies. So these are a bit better, but those with the hood underwhelming. We put the zoom to the test. I would say quite reasonable. Kept zooming into the seagulls, and you can actually see them. In the first shot you cannot see the seagulls, but here you actually can, so that's a good level of details. Foggy day, blurry day, rainy day, so that's a circumstance for the phone. And here we have an example of excellent close-up and texture of the rain, and of course we have the portrait thingy, which is highlighted here, depth effect that keeps the subject in focus and blurs things out. Maybe blurs a bit too much. Panorama is 14,272 over 5,776. I would say that the phone likes its light. If you take it into an area with not enough light, it will fight a bit. It can fight the Asus Zenfone 3 and the Huawei P10 Lite. They're basically on par. I feel like it slightly beats the Huawei P Lite phones. It certainly beats the Xiaomi Redmi phones I've tested recently, and I would put it on par with the iPhone SE. Now let's see the low light captures, because we have quite a few. First things first, when you take a shot without a flash, it's dark, but with a flash there appears to be a slight blue hue. The brightness is quite okay. There's a bit of blur here around the main subject. The zoom, of course, is not on par with the daytime one, so you keep zooming in and you will lose a lot of details. Things are darker than we're used to, and when I say used to, I'm talking about the flagship. This is not a flagship, but at least the street light halos are decent in size, and the optical zoom 2x, not as impressive during the nighttime, but still it's there. Good colors for these flowers. Portrait seems to have messed up a bit here with extra blur when it's not needed, and details not that good when you zoom in. I would say it's a mid-level affair, something like Huawei P9 Lite or P9 Lite 2017. Those are the shots we've taken. It beats the ZTE Nubias, it beats the Xiaomi Redmis and the HTC Desire 10 Lifestyle, scores below the Sony Xperia XA1 and the Zenfone 4 a bit, and takes a pretty reasonable bokeh, although at night not so much. Now, when it comes to the videos, we shot Full HD, MP4, 30 frames per second and 20 mega per second, at least during the day. So let's see some of the videos we've taken with this phone. The biggest drawback here is the very often refocusing that happens. Then we have the very echoey acoustics, so not that good of a microphone. I know, maybe I covered it with my hand, but you cannot avoid it. You're shooting like this, what you're supposed to do, something like this maybe, but who does that? Let's be honest. So echoey, a bit blurry stuff in the distance, refocusing, but the colors are pretty decently calibrated. Let's go to more colorful things like this video here. I'm happy with the colors, happy with the exposure, also the exposure change, but you can see it's trying to focus, refocus over and over again. The exposure changes a bit too sudden at times. Things are a bit shaky, so stabilization not that good here. We don't have optical image stabilization, but the electronic one will not win awards for sure. The zoom is poor, and I feel the need to remind you it was a rainy day. You can see it on the chain, lots of raindrops. I had to constantly wipe the phone's camera and body because it was pouring outside. This is a bit of a darker video, lots of clouds, pretty good texture, clarity and colors. And when you zoom, you drop details surely. It actually reminds me of the first Zenfone zoom I tested, which was a bit buggy, and some of the aspects here are annoying, like the constant refocusing. That's what reminds me of the Asus Zenfone zoom. I would say it's underwhelming, if not for the good colors, and I would say decent clarity. It feels slightly below the Motorola Moto G5S Plus, clearly below the Xiaomi Mi 6, and also below the Sony Xperia XA1 and XA1 Ultra. I was expecting a bit more here, but rainy day, once again, rainy day. At least the 4K video we took looks good. I should find it here somewhere. Rest assured you'll see it in the full text review, so that's the best thing about the phone, the 4K video. It could fight older Huawei Honor phones, but that's about it. Things get, I'm afraid to use this word, but things get wretched during the night. You can see it from the numbers. I'm talking about 13 or 14 FPS, 20 mega per second. Things are abysmal. Very poor audio. Things will move in frames. Darkness, blur, huge halos. Basically nothing going for it during the nighttime. You can forget about low light videos, forget about concert videos and so forth. You should be actually lucky to get something good out of this phone at night. That low FPS is worrying me. It's below bigger brands, so forget about nighttime filming. Now, let's see other things like the browser, for example. We got Chrome here, pre-installed Chrome, and I'm going to go ahead and access gsmdom.com, which should load up reasonably fast. Here we go. Its benchmarks, Chrome, SunSpider and Velamo were quite reasonable. And the scrolling is fluid, the keyboard is stock and it's got swipe. Now it's time to talk about the connectivity. So as you can see, we got an audio jack, we got an USB Type-C port, there is a VO LTE, we got we got a bottom microphone and a top microphone too, here and here. Be careful not to cover them. There's infrared, you can see the emitter here, we got noise reduction, audio jack. We got dual SIM, nano SIM card slots. There's Wi-Fi 802.11 of the ABGN AC variety, Wi-Fi Direct, Wi-Fi display, Bluetooth 4.2, 4G LTE, GPS. There is GLONASS and Beidou, and there is no NFC that I know of. Now, as far as the calls are concerned, they're pretty loud and clear. Those microphones are doing a fine job. And if you want to talk about the connectivity, we're obviously going to have to address the speed test. Here we go. These are the results we achieve with this phone. It goes as high as 198 mega per second downloads on Wi-Fi and 25 mega per second uploads on Wi-Fi. On 4G, 105/45. All of them are great results for a mid-range phone, especially a $200 phone. Now we have reached maybe the selling point of the phone. Usually you can buy a Xiaomi phone with MIUI on top of Android or MIUI. Now it's got clean, pure Android One. Android One means it should get fast Android updates for 2 years and fast security updates and the latest security updates for 3 years. It runs Android 1 based on Android 7.1.2, should get audio fast, everything is stock, everything is fluid, and we got multitasking here as a carousel, and you can obviously use the split screen feature as I'm doing right now. Maybe select the phone or the music player, play some music and do some web browsing at the same time. So that's multitasking. We got the drop down area with notifications and quick settings. We keep the screen pressed to access wallpapers, widgets and settings. All the widgets are stock. And here we have the options and settings associated to my account and Google Now and so forth. Google Assistant is also part of the package. Now in the settings area, things are kept stock once again, typical for Nougat: connectivity, display, notifications, sound, memory, users and gestures. And we have reached the security area. So security means fingerprint scanner, which is right here. And I was actually surprised by how snappy it is. I'm going to go ahead and use a pin. Okay, we are done. The setup involves a mere 8 steps, faster than the usual 12-step or 15-step authentications. Let's see just how snappy the unlocking is. So I put my finger here and it requires the pin. That always happens for the first time when you set it up. So check it out, put it here, it's unlocked. I just barely touched it. So that's nice. So I put the finger here at 90 degrees. 180 degrees, fast unlock and also accurate. Now when it comes to the pre-installed apps, we got this drawer motion, app drawer motion like on the Pixel phones. We got 23 pre-installed apps, which is crazy nowadays. 23 pre-installed apps is a little, and that's good news, no bloatware. We got things like Chrome, Calendar, Drive, Duo, Gmail, Maps, we got Photos, Playbooks, and of course they also added Mi Remote, so you can control things around the house with the infrared. Now we have reached the moment of the verdict for the phone. So on the Pro side, it's got a solid build, it takes okay pics during the day, good performance, bright screen, loud speaker, great battery, solid price, nice close-ups, not bad bokeh. I would say the HDR is okay, fast fingerprint scanner, stock and clean UI, fast updates and fast connectivity. Those are the pros, there's a lot of them. On the cons, well, the video capture was underwhelming. I would even go as far as to say almost buggy. I would say that the low light capture was also a disappointment. In photo or video, I may be lacking the waterproofing of the phone. It would have been nice to have it waterproofed. Very few camera options, which actually matter, something like, I don't know, shutter, ISO, white balance and so forth. And actually that's about it. So very few caveats and all of them have to do with the camera. Other than that, excellent battery, excellent performance, excellent screen, all of those for only $200. It looks and feels a bit like an iPhone. It should have the bokeh effects of the Xiaomi Mi 6, if not slightly below them. And in the end, fast updates, thanks to Android 1, and no bloatware, no spyware, no malware. It should be good for gaming, TV shows, thanks to the battery. Also some daytime camera pics, some bokeh and Facebook plus controlling your TV set. So in the end, a very all-rounded and well-rounded mid-range package, the Xiaomi Mi A1, same specs as the Xiaomi Mi 5X, only sexier and cleaner Android 1 on board. This is from gsnrom.com. This has been the presentation of the Xiaomi Mi A1. Bye bye.